Notre Dame football season is still alive. The Fighting Irish beat the number 15 Louisville Cardinals 31-24 right here at Notre Dame Stadium. Wild, wacky, weird, wonderful result for the Fighting Irish, but the way that it got there was, like I said, all of those things and more. You were just joking. You don't even really know where to start. I don't even really know where to start. So let's start from the beginning, because I think I wrote it in the game story at blueandgold.com. This thing could have went south in a hurry, and it really did. Devin Ford fumbles the opening kickoff. Louisville recovers 3 plays later. They're in the end zone, 7-0, 90 seconds into the game. This place was silent. You could hear a raindrop fall on a bleacher if you were listening for it. But Notre Dame responds. Riley Leonard looks awesome, magnificent, terrific on Notre Dame's first possession of the game to tie the game at 7. They scored the next 2 touchdowns of the game. It's 21-7. Notre Dame's pretty much in control from there, but it got dicey at times. How do you come away thinking about the start and then obviously the response?
Well, I think the biggest moment tonight was that opening drive from the offense, because like you said, that could have gone very poorly very quickly if Notre Dame's offense went 3 and out, and the defense has to come back on. Then you're thinking about, like, how are we going to get back in this game? Yeah. It was huge for the offense to put that drive together. Riley Leonard, as you said, was excellent early. The big play of this game early was that 4th and 3 to Jaden Thomas, where Thomas ran a terrific route. I don't think Thomas caught another pass the rest of the game. Yeah. He ran an excellent comeback route on that sprint out from Riley Leonard. Leonard hit him. They score probably 3 or 4 plays later, and then the offense is just rolling from the next drive. Jaden Greathouse catches a 34 something like that yard touchdown, and then a botched punt goes over Louisville's heads. I mean, this was like the most football game Notre Dame has played this season. It was just a lot of different football things happened this evening, but Notre Dame got it done. And it did not have to be pretty. It was pretty at times. Sure. It was very ugly at times. The Devin Ford fumble is going to get all the attention. But Jadarian Price's fumble, if anything, was more disastrous because that was up 2 scores, and you have the ball in the shadow of your own end zone. That is the one thing you can't do, and it leads to another touchdown. Jadarian Price, I don't think, got to carry the rest of the game. Devin Ford was removed from kickoff team. That was it. That was this kind of game because Notre Dame could not afford to lose. They could not afford to leave in those players who were making those mistakes. And they pulled it out.
You know who was not taken out of the game, injury or otherwise, was Riley Leonard. And I think that is a huge deal for Notre Dame that for the second week in a row, he progressed as a passer. Yep. The Greathouse throw was perfect. He's wide open, but you have to give an assist to Mike Denbrock for that too. I thought the route trees were awesome today. He schemed up some good stuff. We'll talk about what happened late with the offense, but overall, I think the Steve Angeli, I mean, you didn't hear him today. Nobody was chanting Steve Angeli today.
Even when Steve Angeli actually went in the game.
For one play, because Riley Leonard got the wind knocked out of him. Called himself a little soft for coming out for that play, but you never have the wind knocked out of you. It's not fun. He said that. But overall, let's talk about Leonard, his performance. Look, he only ran for like 53 yards, I think. Lost a little bit with a sack, but, I mean, that was only a couple yards there at the end. If you would have told me that Riley Leonard only passes for 163 and runs for 53, I would have been like, oh, no. You need one of those 2 numbers to be higher. But for the game that it was, Riley Leonard went 17 of 23 and kind of did his job today.
Well, if there's one thing that Riley Leonard is not, it's soft. Yeah. He is a tough dude. He was taking some hits. The big thing that stands out to me is the little sprint out at the end of the game where Freeman confirmed after the game, like, they instructed Riley, if it's not open, eat it. And that was a smart play to kill 40 seconds, which wound up being big because it gets Louisville in a more desperate position. But that was the only sack he took, and that is probably the number one reason Riley Leonard has remained this team's quarterback throughout this entire time, because he is really good at avoiding those sacks, because those are drive killers. Oh, absolutely. And Leonard is good at avoiding them. He was great early. He missed a couple throws. He had one that was low to phase in on a sprint out comeback. There was a throw under pressure that was behind Collins that he'll probably tell you he should have made. Other than that, it was like the whole offense kind of slowed down the second half. The Louisville's D-line started getting their act together and pummeling this front. It was, I don't want to compare it too much to A&M because it was more volatile of a game than that, but the offensive performance kind of, it reminded me a little bit of A&M, especially in the second half, because it wasn't pretty a lot. The offensive line largely lost the battle of the line of scrimmage, but both Leonard, the offensive line, the receivers, they pulled it together, and they hit a big play to Jeremiah Love that it was a perfect play call. Mm-hmm. Even at the end of the game, like with the situation was that Louisville had 0 timeouts. They knew worst case scenario, you have to kill off 2 minutes doing this. They were aggressive on third down. They threw, but I think it's smart to instruct Leonard, eat it if you don't see anything, you didn't see anything. It was the game that needed to be called with the way Louisville's defense was playing in the second half.
Yeah, and you make a good point that it's similar to the Texas A&M game. This is a power conference team. It's a ranked team. It's
really good defensive line.
It's an undefeated opponent. If you're a Notre Dame fan coming away from this game saying, "Oh man, the offense stunk it up again and wasn't good enough," no, they played a good team.
Yeah.
They played a good opponent and they did enough to win. That's what Marcus Freeman said in his post-game press conference. And for a guy who has said, "I don't agree with this," that Freeman said, and don't agree with that, I totally agree with, hey, we won the football game because we did enough to win the football game. Took advantage of a couple turnovers. Xavier Watts always seems to be in the right place at the right time. He basically
it's a skill.
It is, and he kind of detailed that in his post game. Jack, it's probably a good thing that Notre Dame is not playing a game next week. Let's stick with that defensive side of the ball. Boubacar Traore goes down in this game, and it looks like that could be the same thing that happened to Jordan Botelho if I'm just reading between the lines. It looked like a significant knee injury. Christian Gray, who has the lingering shoulder thing, seems like he's going to be fine, but he's happy to have a week off. Benjamin Morrison, not exactly sure what happened to him, but he left this game for a short time. This Notre Dame defense needs a break.
Yeah, it does, and I think Josh Burnham's a guy who played a couple snaps, but they knew it would be a break glass if necessary situation with him. He should be back full strength after the bye. Again, Boubacar Traore, I mean, that would be so huge if they lost him. Yeah. But it looked like a non-contact knee injury, and we know what we know about non-contact knee injuries. It's a great time for the bye, and it's a great time for the bye not just because of health, but because of where this team's at right now, because they needed a week to get their house in order, especially with the passing game, and they get to do it at 4-1, not 3-2, and that was always the biggest part of today.
Yeah, we're going to end this video right there, the big picture. Where is this football team at 4-1? Does it believe that it can run the table, win the college football playoff? Because you have to believe that this was one of their hardest games left, if not the hardest game left. That's the point that I want to reiterate when we were talking about maybe what the offense didn't do today or what the defense didn't do today. Good football team. Jeff Brom's a good football coach.
USC won.
Good football players. Okay, so win or loss, USC was going to be the next toughest game. But now I'm going to kick it back to you, Jack. Army looks good. Navy looks good. Better than we thought that they would be. USC's better than a lot of people thought they would be. We were high on them. Yep. Got that right.
Stanford.
Stanford.
I mean, they're beating power conference opponents, which is what they weren't doing that in the past.
What does this win mean for the rest of the year?
Oh, it's absolutely huge. It means you get to go into the bye week with your goals still intact. You get to go into the bye week with 2 top 25 wins, and against 2 teams that are gonna still be ranked. I don't see why Louisville would drop out of the rankings after losing on the road to Notre Dame. They were number 15. I don't think they would probably drop out of the top 20 even. Yeah. That's a really good team. That's a contender for the ACC right there. I
wrote it in the game story. I wholeheartedly agree with you.
Texas A&M is playing well. Texas A&M has a couple of home games against other bubble teams that Notre Dame might want to monitor. But Notre Dame needs to get its own house in order after the bye, because while you'd like to think that Notre Dame has a pretty easy slate until USC, they got to deal with Stanford. Stanford's not going to be a pushover. The service academies don't look like pushovers. I mean,
Navy's quarterback looks really good.
Navy has one of those guys again. I regret to inform everyone. And Virginia lost a bunch of close games last year. You can't overlook anyone, especially if you're Notre Dame and you've had the results that you've had in the past. But you get past this game, you get to go into the bye week with a chance to fix your issues, knowing that your goals are still intact, and that's the most important part of tonight.
Biggest thing for me was, and I asked Marcus Freeman about it, and we talked about it at the very beginning, as we should. The start was horrendous, horrific, as bad as you can draw it up. Notre Dame scored the next 21 points in the game and never trailed again. Had the game in its control. Got dicey a couple moments. You want to end that game on offense. You don't want to give Louisville the ball back, but guess what? Defense shut it down in the end, got off the field, won the football game. So like you said, Jack, this is a 4-1 Notre Dame football team. You're still thinking about Northern Illinois and what if, and it could be 5-0, but what if Notre Dame needed that as a wake-up call? We'll see. We'll see what happens. All you know that right now is Notre Dame is 4-1, and going into this week alone, that's exactly where it wanted to be. So much better than 3-2, because that was the alternative going into this Louisville game. It's 4-1. It was a weird way to get there, and we've got a break. We've got a Saturday off next week, but we will be back here at Notre Dame Stadium to do the same thing in 2 weeks after the Stanford game. So that's Jack Sobel. I'm Tyler Horka, and we're Blue and Gold Illustrated, blueandgold.com.